If you want to continue to follow our adventure, click subscribe. So you don't miss anything, click the bell notification. I have decided that I don't want to be a stealth camper. Now, what a stealth camper means is folks who want to hide the fact that they live the nomadic lifestyle, that they live in a van. And so what stealth campers try to do is they buy a van and then they do everything they can to disguise it as being a home. Pull in at nighttime so nobody sees them pull in, and go in the back, they shut off all the lights, they don't make any noise. You know, that way they can sleep in a city street, and it looks like it's just a construction van. Some nomads will actually put a logo on the side of their van to make it look like, Tom's Plumbing. I have discovered that I don't want to do that. I am very happy with the idea that I'm exposed and stick out like a sore thumb. That everybody knows that my camper is a camper. The way I do things forces me to find campgrounds, to go to a place where I can legally sleep. It forces me to go to national forest, it forces me to go to public campgrounds, tax-funded campgrounds, or campgrounds in which I have to pay to stay on. Because I have really been observing this stealth way of life. And first of all, I don't think having a van automatically qualifies you as stealthy. If you really think about it, folks know that you're living in your van. It's quite obvious. It's quite creepy also. And this is why more and more cities are banning folks from sleeping on the side of the road. They know that you're there. It's disturbing. I've made lots of videos where I've talked about the homeowner looks out and they see this van sitting out there, and occasionally they might see a flicker of a light, like from a cigarette lighter or something. So they feel like that maybe there's some criminal activity going on. So what do? They call the police. Also, if you have solar panels on the top of your van, you're not stealthy. And the more this lifestyle becomes popularized, the more people are going to recognize you're sleeping in your van. Now, I was on a submarine. They said that submarines are stealthy, which means you go out to sea and nobody knows you're there. Nobody knows where you're at. Once you go underwater, you were disappeared for 3 months. You weren't available to satellites. You weren't available to spies. You were gone. And that's what stealthy means. In the last few days, we had to leave the other side of this dam because they were going to flood it. Evacuated everybody out. That left a lot of people trying to figure out what to do. Well, I knew that we could stay on this side of the dam. And the reason I knew this was I had a subscriber actually tell me that I could. His name's Gary. Thank you, Gary. And the campsite host from the other side of the dam said we could stay here. And then the third reason is it's quite obvious it's a campground. There's fire rings, a fire pit, picnic tables. It doesn't really hide the fact that you can camp there. Usually if there's a fire ring, usually means you can camp there. So I was 90% sure that you could camp here. Well, so that meant I came over here. There was a van guy that came over here, and another car dweller, for lack of a better word, who came over here. So when we got over here, the van guy said, "Can we camp here?" I don't know if we can camp here. Very paranoid. And I said, "Yeah, I think we can camp here." And I explained that I've talked to 3 different people. Also, there's no signs here saying you can't camp. Usually that's a key indicator on these public grounds that you can't camp. Well, he wasn't convinced. He said, "Well, I'm just going to stay here at night and hide the fact that I'm staying here. And before anybody gets here in the morning, because right up here, just right there, right behind those trees, is the ranger station." So, I mean, if we were going to get caught, we were going to get caught right away in the first thing in the morning. So he gets up. I mean, I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and by 6:30, you could see that he was leaving. And I stayed. Well, sure enough, about 8 o'clock, the Rangers drove by, and I was outside, and he waved, and I waved, and he wasn't stopping, so I waved him down. And I said, "I just want to make sure it's okay for us to stay here for a couple of weeks." And he said, yeah, absolutely. He says, "This campground," he says, "we don't advertise it too much. We'd rather you stay on the other side." But he says, "I understand you can't stay over there because of the of the flooding. But he says, boy, yeah, please enjoy the dam. That's all right. He said, and he was just went on about the dam, how great it was and how much he liked working here. You know, me sticking out as like a sore thumb, I'm comfortable. I didn't have to get up first thing in the morning and vacate the area because I was afraid I was going to get caught. Well, what was funny is this morning, I wake up and there's a van parked right next to us. And I asked Carolyn, did you see him pull in? And she said, yeah, he pulled in about midnight, 11:30 midnight. About 7 o'clock. Now, this is a weekend, so it's not even like the Rangers are going to come in this morning. He could have stayed all weekend. Nobody would have questioned anything. But what he did was he parked up in the parking area where all the fishermen are. There's a parking area and then there's a camping area. So he went up there and he went back to bed. I can tell what he did. See, again, I know he's not stealthy because he's made it obvious to me that what he's doing. So that's not stealthy. Someone knows what you're doing. So he's went up there and he's back in his van. My suspicions are he'll come back down here tonight to sleep. I actually watched a video about this where they said, you know, if you're gonna live in your van and you're gonna do it on city streets, be obvious about it, because if you try to hide it, people get scared. If you're obvious and you say, hi, how you doing? And they say, what are you doing over there? Well, I'm just gonna sleep here tonight and in the morning I'm gonna leave. Usually, he said, oh, okay, well, they know what you're doing and they're not suspicious. Well, they know what I'm doing. I got this big old camper on the back of my van and they're not suspicious. They know exactly what I'm doing. They're comfortable with what I'm doing. Now, of course, you're going to get those people after a week. If you stay around a long time, you're going to get the locals who are going to really scratch their head and wondering why you're staying there so long. But in my opinion, being stealthy, you know, I get this in the comments a lot. Being stealthy is the way to go in the van life. Well, it seems to me being stealthy just makes you paranoid, because these van guys keep missing out on this wonderful backdrop here because they're in such a hurry to get out because they're afraid they're going to get caught, you know, staying somewhere they're not supposed to stay. So it creates this mentality that, yeah, you know, you're always on the move. You can't let anybody know you're around. Whereas if you just kind of keep it out in the open, it really does help suppress the suspicions of what you're doing. Thanks for watching. Click like if you like the video, and happy travels.